So this is part 2 of chapter 2, and we're talking about journal entries and T accounts. And so what we're going to do here is go through an example. We're going to use the same set of transactions that we used for the worksheet in chapter 1. So we're going to use those the same examples. So you can go back to chapter 1 lecture notes if you want, and then you can see how that would translate into these journal entries and how those journal entries would translate into our T accounts. So what I'm going to do is prepare a journal entry for each one of these using our rule of debits and credits. And the first couple ones I'm going to just walk through the steps that you would take and then show you how those are posted into the T accounts at the right hand side. So I've got a T account for all the different accounts that we're going to use. Those would have been columns in our original worksheet. Now they're going to be accounts, and again those would be like separate pages in a ledger. So we no longer have a big worksheet. We would just have a book that in this case would have perhaps 9 pages, so much more easily worked with. And then we'd have maybe one journal with one page that had 9 entries in it, with the descriptions underneath each entry that are listed in 1 through 9. So that way we'd know each entry. Usually these would have a date. We would have each entry, we would have a description, and then we would have a cross-reference into each account. So in the account we could go back into the journal and we would know exactly what transaction that was by reading the description. So we can go back and forth between the two, and we'd always be able to understand what those entries were. And of course, if we ever wanted to correct an error, go back and look at what the transaction was involving. Or of course, if there was ever an audit that needed to be done and someone had to go back and understand what those transactions were, then that would facilitate that as well. All right, so let's take a look. So owner invests $30,000 cash in exchange for common stock. So that was our first business transaction. Number 1, is it a business transaction? Yes, of course, it's an exchange of value. The company's getting $30,000 of cash. It's exchanging that for an ownership interest in common stock. So clearly an exchange of value. It is a business transaction. What accounts are being affected? Well, cash is being affected and the common stock account is being affected. Which account are they going up or down? Well, cash is going up and common stock is going up. So now we're going to apply the rule of debit and credit. So an increase in an asset is a debit. Since cash is an asset, cash is going up, cash is a debit. So what we're going to do is, the way a journal entry is written, the debit always comes first, okay? So debit, cash, for $30,000. And usually there would be columns in here for debits and credits, but since I don't have that listed here, I'm just doing it this way. And then the other account that's being affected is common stock. Common stock is going up. An increase in a shareholder's equity account is a credit. So credit, common stock, and I'm just going to abbreviate, for $30,000. And so remember, common stock is always going to be a credit anyway because it increases shareholders' equity. So what we could do here is we could just show those entries. We could post those into our general ledger. The debit, remember, is on the left side. So cash, here we'd have $30,000. And that's from transaction 1. Of course, normally that would have a date, but I don't have enough room to do all that. And then common stock, credit, $30,000. And again, that's from transaction 1. So that's how the first entry would look, both as a journal entry and as an entry that's posted into the general ledger accounts. Okay, so let's go to the second one. Purchase supplies on account, $2,000. Of course, that's a business transaction. in terms of an exchange of value, we're receiving supplies. We're giving a promise to pay. That's an exchange of value. The supplies account is going up. The accounts payable account is also going up. An increase in an asset, in other words, the supplies account is an asset. An increase in an asset is a debit. So we're going to debit supplies for $2,000. And accounts payable is going up. Accounts payable is a liability. An increase in a liability is a credit. Credit accounts payable, $2,000. So that's how you're going to know if it's a debit or credit. Is it going up or down? And that will tell you how does the rule of debit and credit apply to that particular account. In this case, accounts payable is a liability. If it's going up, then an increase in a liability is a credit. Okay? The other thing to make note of is that we always have debits equal to credits. In other words, we're always in balance. And we always have to have at least one debit and at least one credit. Okay? So we always have to have at least 2 entries. We can have more, and if we do have more, the debits always have to equal the credits. We always have to still be in balance. Okay? So, the third one, performing services for $6,000 and we're receiving cash. Performing services, that's obviously that's a code word for revenue. When we perform services, we're recognizing revenue, so that is a business transaction. In this case, we're receiving cash, so it's a little more clear that that's what's going on. An increase in cash, again, is a debit, and I'm going to stop writing debit and credit. The first item is always going to be a debit, and then we're going to indent the credits, okay? So cash is going up. It's a debit. It's a debit cash for $6,000. And here, revenue is going up. Revenues increase shareholders' equity. An increase in shareholders' equity is a credit. So now it's going to become easy when you think that from now on, just think about revenue is always increasing shareholders' equity. Revenues are always going to be a credit because revenues increase shareholders' equity. So again, so we have cash. Whoops, we forgot to make the second entry. So supplies, we have for entry 2, we have $2,000. And accounts payable, credit for $2,000. And here we have cash of $6,000 from entry 3. I'm sorry, $6,000. And we have revenue, credit of $6,000 from entry 3. Okay, so those are those 3 transactions that are recorded both in journal entries and in the accounts. Item number 4, paid creditors on account, $1,000. So these are, we're paying off part of the $2,000 that we owed in number 2 above. So we owe $2,000, we're paying off $1,000. We're using cash to pay that off. So which accounts are being affected? Well, accounts payable is going to be paid off partially. So accounts payable is going down. So a decrease in a liability is a debit. So we're going to debit accounts payable for $1,000. So in effect, accounts payable is going down. And actually, we can see that if we look over to the right, accounts payable, we owe $2,000. If we post this entry, you can see that now accounts payable is now, the balance would be $1,000 credit. So it would be $2,000 originally, but now $1,000 of it would have been paid off. The net amount that's owed is $1,000. And of course, we're paying cash. Cash would go down. A decrease in an asset is a credit. So credit cash for $1,000. And so here we would have a credit to cash for $1,000. And that's how T accounts work. You're going to add up both sides and then subtract the two, and the net amount, whichever side is bigger, that's where the balance is going to be. So for instance, cash right now, we would have a $30,000 debit, a $6,000 debit. So we have a $36,000 debit balance, a $1,000 credit balance. The net amount would be a $35,000 debit balance. So if we looked at our bank account, we should have $35,000. We have 36 coming in and 1,000 going out. We would have a net amount of 35. That's how the T account works. Okay. All right. So number 5, we paid salary expense, 1,000. Salary expense, obviously that's one of the accounts that's affected. Expenses always reduce shareholders' equity. A reduction of shareholders' equity is a debit. So expenses are always going to be a debit. So debit salaries expense for 1,000. And we paid cash. Cash decreased. A decrease in an asset is a credit. So credit cash for 1,000. So another $1,000 credit to cash for entry 5. And here salary expense is a debit for entry 5, $1,000. Perform services on account, $4,000. So here we perform services, but we did not collect the $4,000. That's an amount to be received. But the key again is performed services. Performed services is a code word again for revenue. If we perform the services, we did that, and we received an exchange, a promise to be paid. So that is an exchange of value. We have to recognize revenue. So we're going to credit revenue because revenue increases shareholders' equity. So we know we have a credit to revenue of 4,000. And instead of a debit to cash, we didn't receive cash. Our accounts receivable went up by 4,000, and an increase in an asset is a debit. So debit accounts receivable, 4,000. That's entry 6. So 4,000 debit accounts receivable, and credit 4,000 of revenue. Okay, so I'm going to slide this up a little bit, hopefully not too far. So we paid the utility bill, $500. Again, utility bill would be an expense. It's not an asset. It's used up in a month. So we have utility expense, and expenses are always debits. $500. And we paid cash. Cash decreased. A decrease in an asset is a credit, $500. So $500 credit. And that's item 7. And utilities expense, again, always a debit. All right, so we're going to stop there and come back and finish it up in part 3.